Just to clarify what the title of the video means, because I'm still trying to work out a good title that really gets across the point I'm trying to get at, but generally it's the pattern of buffs that we've been getting lately over on the JP side of things seem to be getting stronger and stronger, which was really nice for servants that kind of needed that extra oomph, but now we're starting to get them on servants that really didn't need to be much better than they already were, and now they're kind of insane. And it's just a general trend that I've been noticing that whenever I, drop my video being like, oh, well, this character's insane, everybody else seems to be having the same reaction. And then I'm noticing that that is also happening like once every 3 weeks or so. And so I'm wondering if we're slated to be getting some more difficult content, like maybe a spike in difficulty, either with the end of part 2, or maybe it's going to happen with the anniversary. They're going to announce some big new difficult quest. As we all know, they're trying to work on the app and make it function a little bit better. So maybe they're going to be bringing out new mechanics and stuff that we're just not prepared to handle, and they're trying to get us prepared for that. I mean, if you think about all the ways we have to buff servants, we've been getting more and more as time goes on. I mean, not only do you have grails, you have foes, you have gold foes. Free-to-play CEs are starting to get a lot stronger and are now including very strong power mods built into them while also being attack CEs. Plus, there's buffing your command cards so they do more damage, but then you can also give them bonus effects. Then there's the class tree thing that can pretty much improve everything about an entire class, not even an individual servant. And even though some of these can cost a lot of QP, especially the class tree, it is getting a little insane to how much we're able to buff the servants ourselves on top of these buffs that they're giving us that are really strong. And there was a notion in the community, I remember during the 8th anniversary, because that gave us some really game warping buffs. I mean, somebody like Salter goes from a rarely used servant that you kind of only break out because you like Salter, and now she's arguably the best AoE Buster Saber in the game. Or somebody like Karna that could have been really good if only he didn't have that weird 25% battery, which they fixed to a 30% while also buffing up some of the effects on his third skill as well. But then there was also this sentiment that other servants weren't going to be good overnight after getting one buff, and some of them were just downright sad. I mean, Kiyohime, Summer Abigail, Anastasia all got like one effect slapped onto them and then just kind of called it a day. And it really didn't feel like it was all that impactful, so much so that I've been seeing, at least in my own streams and comments, that people are looking for a complete rehaul on some of these servants to just completely fix how they work, because 1 or 2 buffs might not be enough to help some of these more worse off servants, especially if they get a wasted lackluster buff, because then who knows when the next time they're going to be getting a buff will come around. Personally, one of the ones that kind of got me a little bit upset was the Artoria one, not because it was a bad buff per se, but it gave her a lot of neat effects that she really didn't need added to her kit. And so it was just a little bit frustrating seeing her finally get a buff after not getting anything since she released in year 1, and then it's just very lackluster. And I can't even tell if it's, say a listening to the community type thing, because I know, at least anecdotally from my community, we've had a lot of people complain, including myself, that some of these buffs are a bit wasted, and it really sucks to see when a buff gets wasted, because again, who knows when that servant is going to receive another buff. But as of late, all of the buffs that we've been getting for the last couple of months have been absolutely insane. I mean, how many times have you looked onto your feed when going for like an FGO video or something, and you see like 20 different people all saying X person's buff is absolutely insane, or they're losing their minds with this, or they broke the game, whatever have you, whatever combination of words they choose, you always see that nowadays when we get a buff. Because they are buffing a lot of servants that don't really need buffs. One of the ones that comes to mind is Areshkagal, who, for all intents and purposes, was pretty good in every aspect of the game. She was good in challenge quests, she's good for farming, whatever you want to do, she'll be able to get that job done for you. But then they made all the stuff on her first skill guaranteed, and then gave her skill cooldown as well on already low cooldown skills, which is really nutty. Or then there's Skahawk, who I always viewed as kind of a tactical nuke that sure, her NP gain wasn't the best, but you could always use Scotty or Ruler Scotty to be able to, you know, refund her NP with fat globs of NP, but now she's able to get like 60% back because whenever she does damage, she refunds 20% of her NP back on top of both of her power mods now being 100% for 3 turns, which is really, really good, but it wasn't one of those servants that I really thought needed a buff because, you know, we have all these other guys like, say, Sigurd, for example, who could really use the helping hand more so than someone like Skyhawk, who's already in a really good position. But then you have stuff like Constantine, who I think was one of those characters in the same vein, not I'm saying that he was as good as them, but in the same category as like your Miss Cranes or say your Summer Chloes, these interesting servants that fulfill a gimmick that you're probably not going to use. Summer Chloe has probably gotten the closest to one of these more gimmicky servants that does see a lot of use. But he was one of those guys that, of course, you could get some good mileage out of. You could use him for solos and whatnot, but you would probably just use somebody else at the end of the day. And now he's got a redonkulous busted NP. I mean, it's just absolutely insane what they did with him. And then almost as like the spark for me having this idea was the Nero buff that we just got, which, by the way, stop coping. It's absolutely filthy disgusting what they did to Nero. Having 3 guts that last for 6 turns and that also guarantees your Imperial Privilege twice because Imperial Privilege is on a 5-turn cooldown and the buff success rate is up for 6 turns, while also giving you 50% NP gain for 6 turns, and then whenever you proc your guts, you just get 20% NP damage that stacks, and you debuff cleanse your entire kit. Which is just absolutely dummy nutty. I mean, it's ridiculous that they would give Nero all of this. I mean, I'm happy for it, but again, now it takes her from a servant who kinda was able to loop, it just wasn't very pretty before, to now being a consistent looper that is also ridiculously good as a solo servant. And I just can't be the only one that sees the differences in the buffs that they've been doing. I mean, sure, Satanta got a pretty mild buff recently when the Lilim Harlot came back around, but even then, his wasn't all that bad. He has an on-attack buff that for 5 times, whenever he attacks, he just gets 10% NP back for 3 turns. So, again, very similar to the Skyhawk buff, except it's a smaller NP battery, but it lasts for more times, I guess. And just real quick, before anybody thinks I'm about to like spoil some JP-only bosses, don't worry, I'm not going to name drop anybody or anything, like don't be worried that I'm going to spoil something, but as somebody who is fully caught up on the JP story and everything, we've been getting maybe some tougher bosses, but not anything that's more tough than before, and the only real spike, I guess if you want to call it a spike in difficulty, was Ordeal Call 1, but that's just because the enemies got beefier. It's not as though their effects or mechanics are now infinitely more annoying, it's just I did notice a lot of the enemies were really beefy, and instead of, oh, you gotta just beat this 500,000 HP enemy that goes into a 1 million HP enemy and then it ends on break bar 1, they just said, no, you just gotta beat this guy now. But even then, for more free-to-play boxes like my JP account, it might just take it from a 3-turn fight to now being a 4 or 5-turn fight, and unless you really do care about min-turning, then it's not that big of a deal. You know, you just want to use your favorite servants. It's like, alright, it'll take me a couple of extra turns now, so I'm not sure if it's going to be an end of part 2 thing, or Ordeal Call 3 is going to be just dummy nutty hard to get through. But I just think that I can't be the only person thinking, wow, are we about to experience a little bit of extra power creep over here on FGO? Because again, it is a PvE game, you know, it doesn't involve other players at all. And so they can make these servants as good as they need them to be able to beat whatever PvE content they throw out there. So I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. You know, maybe there was just some portions in FGO NA that I haven't noticed, but I feel like Lost Belt 6 was the first real kind of difficulty spike that we got, but it doesn't really feel like it's hit those same levels over on JP with any of the recent story, which, again, if you have played JP and you're more caught up, you can also let me know that in the comments down below. But surely I can't be the only person noticing that we've been getting some really, really overpowered buffs over here on the JP side of things, and it has not been with the same frequency of, well, you know, Salter and Karna got a good buff, but then, you know, also Kiyohime Lancer, Archer Artoria, Summer Abigail, you know, etc., also kind of got some stinker buffs. Well, not stinkers, but, you know, not nearly as good as some of the other servants that got their buffs. And instead, it's just been really good, consistent, strong buffs back to back. So let me know that in the comments down below. Make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this little random discussion that popped into my head, which is only fitting that it was caused by Nero, because she's a little goofy dude, so of course she would spawn a random discussion by herself, and she would appreciate the fact that through her being really, really good, it sparked a whole video that pretty much was about her, so I'm sure she would absolutely love that. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice one, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.